Okay, so problem 4.31, this is a good problem. It's a little confusing in the beginning, but once you get it set up, it's pretty straightforward. And this is a nice problem for figuring out coefficient of relationship. And so here the problem states Mabel and Frank are half siblings, as are Tina and Tim. So you have two sets of half siblings. However, these two pairs of half siblings do not have any common ancestors, so they're completely, separate, just out there in the public, in the general public, and they're two half sibling pairs, male female. And what happens here is what if one of them, if Mabel gets together with Tim and Frank marries Tina, so each one of these pairs of half siblings get together and have children, what fraction of those children's genes will they share by virtue of common ancestry? So that's essentially how much on average, how many of their genes on average would they share with the other individual? And so this is what we were talking about when we talk about coefficient of relationship. And then it asks, will the children be more or less, or will be more or less closely related than first cousins? So how, on average, how much of your genome do you share with your first cousins? And then you compare that, right? And so here it is set up. So we have two sets of half siblings, right? So this is our, typical half sibling sort of relationship representation that we've been dealing with, the pedigrees that we've been doing throughout the whole chapter. And so you have Frank and Mabel are half siblings. Tina and Tim are half siblings over here. And Tina gets together with Frank and has a kid. Mabel gets together with Tim and has a kid. And now the question is, how much of on average, how much of their genome do each of these kids share with each other? How closely related are they? And this is what we calculate when we calculate the coefficient of relationship. And so when we're doing a coefficient of relationship, remember, we just say, okay, let's hypothetically say that these two individuals have a child, right? We calculate the inbreeding coefficient of this child and times it by 2. That gives us the coefficient of relationship, or how much on average these two individuals share in their genome. And so here I've just decided, for simplicity's sake, to call the coefficient of relationship R. So R is equal to, and to figure out the inbreeding coefficient of this individual, we have to find those inbreeding loops. And what we see here is there's two different inbreeding loops, one here and one here. And so just as if we were doing an inbreeding coefficient, we would use the formula 1/2 raised to n being the number of individuals in that loop. Each of these loops has 5 individuals, so it's 1/2 raised to the 5th plus 1/2 raised to the 5th, because we have to add up both loops. Both loops contribute to the inbreeding coefficient. And so in this part, we're just calculating the inbreeding coefficient, and then we're going to times it by 2. We calculate the inbreeding coefficient of this individual. It's 2 over 32, times it by 2. That equals 4 over 32, or equals 1/8. And so that's telling us that if in this scenario, these two individuals had, or if these two pairs of couples had offspring, how much of their offspring, how closely would they be related to each other? And on average, they would have 1/8 of their genome similar, due to their relationship. Okay, this may seem far-fetched, but actually, one semester I had a student who, they weren't half siblings. There were two sets of full siblings, and the sister married the brother of the other one, and the brother married the sister of the other one. And so this actually is something that, could happen. So now let's compare that to first cousins. So again, first cousins, here are the two first cousins. We're figuring out the coefficient of relationship. So we just hypothesize that if they were to have, this is just for calculating it, right? If they were to have a kid, so we would calculate the inbreeding coefficient of the hypothesized child of the first cousins. And so here you have 2 loops. Here's one loop. Here's a second loop. And then we're going to times it by 2 to get the coefficient of relationship. Each of these loops has 5 individuals. So 1/2 to the 5th plus 1/2 to the 5th times 2. And as you can see up here, these loops have the same number of individuals, times it by 2. That equals 1/8. And so in fact, in this upper scenario, these two individuals would have the same relationship or share the same amount of genes as two first cousins, and so they're the same. Okay,